Aloha, this is Pipeline Audio, and I'm going to scallop an ukulele. To get started, we'll just need a couple basic tools. I need an X-Acto knife and a roll of masking tape to cover the frets and protect them. And I would recommend having one of Glenn Fricker's hilarious videos playing in the background, like stupid text from musicians to engineers. This is a great series he's made, and man, it's really an insight into my life, at least. So first of all, you want to tape off all the frets to protect them. And how many layers of tape you use probably comes down to how much do you care about your guitar. And I'm just putting 2 on here, and usually it'll go okay. So the trick is to put the tape down, press it real firmly into the frets, and scrape the sides of it so you know it's stuck there to the fret, and kind of squeeze it in there as much as you can. The next step is to cut the tape right at the fret, right where the fret meets the fretboard. You want to have it as close to the fret as possible so that you don't end up with these kind of rectangular shelves on the side of your scallops. And keep cutting past the fretboard on the tape itself so that you have a little handle to peel the tape off when we're done. I used to just tape straight around the whole neck, and man, it could be a pain getting the tape off. So you'll see I'll have some little hooks hanging out, and those will be how I pull the tape off later. With today's tools, this taping and cutting process is probably going to be the most tedious part of the scalloping job. And as soon as I clear this last piece of tape off, you're going to see the little pull tabs on the side. I'm just going to stick those down, but you can peel them up pretty easily. So now the tape's out of the way, but it's going to be really easy to pull off later. And I'm just going to cinch it up even more. I really want this tape just covering the fret and nothing but the fret. And here's how it looks. Okay, so I've sped this next part up to save you the painful and boring tedium. It'd be almost as unfun watching this as it was doing it. And now we have a fully taped off fretboard. So here's the old way to do it. I used to do all my guitars with the file, and I'd spend about 6 hours per fret. So on a 24 fret guitar, it could take a lot of time. I'd file it with a real coarse file, then go to a finer file, and then some different shaped files until you got it just right, and then you'd still have to sand it by hand. Really a pain, and every once in a while you'd press too hard and slide the file right across the fret and have some fun with that. But those were the old days. Nowadays we have the Dremel contour sander. This thing is great. There's some other sanding tools that you can use. There's also rotary sanders that work. This contour sander has a lot of different shape attachments so that you can really tailor it to every fret and what part of the fret you're doing. So I'm going to start with this first attachment, and I'm going to use some pretty coarse paper. I'm using 80 at first, and it just rips right through, and you can see just a couple of minutes work and I've already gone almost the complete shape of the scallop itself. When I'm doing a guitar, I take a lot more off closer to the fret where your finger should be, and so it's not perfectly symmetrical. It's more of a teardrop, half a teardrop shape. On the ukulele, it's so small it's really hard to make much of a distinction. One of the weird things here is that what I thought was a rosewood fretboard is some kind of white wood. As soon as I started grinding into it, whatever dye or stain they had on the wood came off, and first I thought I was going to refinish it with something, but it actually looks kind of cool. So I'm just going to go through and change the attachment to fit what I'm doing, and I'm going to work both sides of the ukulele. Sometimes it's easier to get from one side than the other. But one of the things you're going to find yourself doing a lot with the Dremel contour sander is just taking the attachment off and spinning the sanding belt around just a little bit, and you'll get to a new piece of sandpaper. They last a really long time. I think I only used one belt on this entire ukulele. And you can see, especially on the bigger frets, the single shape might not make exactly the shape you want. Get an idea for just digging into it, and you'll come back later and really finish the contouring and stuff. So now I've changed shapes. I'm going to just dig real close to the frets with this slightly more triangular shaped attachment. At this point, don't try to dig too deep. If you still see some grooves from the larger paper, don't worry. We're going to come back with slightly finer sandpaper and finish this up. And now I'm switching to 150 grit sandpaper, and this part will just fly right through. Just be careful you don't nick the frets. If you do nick the frets, put some new tape on them. And there we go. I could keep sanding this and make it absolutely gorgeous and perfect like on my Carvin 7-string, but I just want to see if this is actually a viable thing to actually do for an ukulele. Okay, there's the little pull tabs on the tape. I'm just going to yank it right off. Fretboard will clean right up. In case you slightly nailed a fret, or just to clean up the tape, Probably want to hit this with 600 grit sandpaper really, really lightly. Just basically polish it. Try not to really dig in. And so now it's time to string this thing up and see if it actually works. And if you recognize it, this is the same ukulele from my How to Make an Electric Ukulele video. And I'll try and put a link to that in the description here. And so here you go, let's try it.